Good morning, seventh graders. Happy Thursday, I guess you could say. Since we don't have school on Friday, you can kind of celebrate a little bit today. This is your Friday, I guess. So we're going to just go back a little bit and review where I left off yesterday. I felt kind of bad actually having at the very end of the lesson not a lot of time for you to go through and try on page 107, 1 through 9. So I want to take the time right now to just talk about a few of these. And if you did get through some of them, that's fantastic. You can, if you didn't get a chance even to check your answers yesterday, you can check them now. So you should have your book, page 107. You should have your calculator with you as well. And let's start talking about a few of these. So I originally had said when I left off on the lesson yesterday that I wanted you to take numbers 1 through 6 here and work these out with the fraction form to find your percent of a number. And then 7, 8, and 9, I said go ahead and use the decimal form of it to find your answer. So just going through and thinking about it, some of these fractions are actually pretty big. So let me give you an example. Let's talk about number 1. So remember, we're trying to find the percent of a number. So in number 1, when we see 65% of 186, we talked about how if you use it as a fraction, we're going to take and put that percent over 100, like this, 65 over 100, times, and then we're going to multiply that by the 186. And I said when we were doing these problems, you can just put that over 1. Now, this is where I'm talking, these are pretty big numbers right here. And so, I did some cross reducing on the examples that I was showing you yesterday and the day before. And I think at this point, when you look at this fraction, there's going to be quite a bit of cross reducing here. So I thought, let's instead, and I really didn't talk about this when I did the problems the other day with you. Instead of cross reducing, you're multiplying fractions. So when you multiply fractions, you multiply your numerators going across the top and you multiply your denominators across the bottom. So that's all I'm going to do right now. I'm not going to cross reduce. Let's just take, and on your calculator, do 65 times 186. Just multiply those two numerators together there. And what you should see is that you're going to get 12,090. 090. That's your numerator. Now look at your denominator, 100 times 1. Well, that's just 100. So you can simplify at this point. You can take that numerator and divide by 100. And just doing that, you're going to get 120.9. And that's good right there. You're done with the problem. So that's saying that 65% of 186 is 120.9. And in the directions, it had said, round to the nearest tenth if necessary. That's to the nearest tenth. You really don't have to do anything else. It's already done for you. So you're done with that answer. Let's try number 2. Same thing. So 45% of $432. So we're going to try the fraction way again. We're going to do 45% out of 100%. So you should be doing these with me. If you did not get to this yesterday, you should be writing this work down on page 107 or just checking your answers. Times. We're going to take that $432. Oops. Over 1. Just like that. And we're going to just multiply the numerators across. You've got, again, big numbers here. So let's just make it easy and not worry about cross reducing and you getting confused with that. Let's just take 45 in the numerator times 432. And you should see, calculating that out, 19,440. And in the denominator again, 100 times 1. Go. 2,440, 100 times 1, 100. And then go ahead and divide that out. So take the 19,440 divided by 100. And so you should see as an answer 194.4. Pen's being kind of sloppy for me. Sorry about that. Let's try again. 0.4. Now, here's the issue with this problem. It's money. So it's asking you to take and find 45%, almost half of $432. Well, since you're talking money, you can't say it's $194.4. That doesn't make sense. And so I know in the directions it tells you to round to the nearest tenth, and your answer right now is to the nearest tenth. But again, you're talking about money. So in this particular situation, you want to make sure that you're going to put a 0 after that, because really what you're saying is it's $194.40. And that's, again, it's okay because it's a money problem and we have to make sense. It has to be logical to understand how much is 45% of $432. It's $194.40. And again, that's almost half of that value. Let's try one more with money here, number 3. I'll still do the fraction with you. So 23% of 640. 23% over 100 times 640 over 1. Okay, so let's take our calculator. Let's multiply our numerators across. 23 times 640 gives you, in your numerator, 14,720. And then 100 times 1, 100. So take your 14,720 and divide it by 100. And so what you should see is 147.2. Okay, so now again, we're talking money, right? So we can't say it's $147.2. That doesn't make sense. So we're going to add that 0 at the end. So 23% of $640 is $147.20. Now, I know I wanted you to do the fractions also with 4, 5, and 6. So the fractions, again, that's one way of doing it. Are you always going to set it up that way? No, not by any means. Honestly, the decimal format of it is much easier and really more commonly used. So let's come down to number 7, and let's take a look at some of the decimal format on those. So let's start with 32% of 4. So if we do that decimal format, remember, you just have to move the decimal 2 places to the left. So 0.32 or 32 hundredths of times 4, right? So much simpler to see and so much simpler to calculate. And again, this is the more common form that we would use. So let's calculate it. 0.32 times 4. Now this comes out 1.28. Now this isn't money this time. And this pen, sorry again, for whatever reason, it's not writing clear for me. So I'm sorry. There we go. Let's try that again. Now here we got to go nearest tenth. This isn't money. So we don't need the hundredths. We don't need the 0.28. So if we're going nearest tenth, we're talking about looking in the hundredths, That 8 tells me what to do in the tenths where that 2 is placed. So if I'm going to round, my final answer is going to be 1.3. Okay, let's try another one. So decimal format. So let's look at number 8. 5.4% of 65. So moving that decimal 2 places to the left, we're looking at 0.054 times 65. Okay, let's try it. 0.054 times 65. Once again, when you look at the decimal, you're getting one where it's in the hundredths. So it says 3.51. Here it goes again. Okay, so nearest tenth. We're going to take a look at that 1 in the hundredth. That tells me what to do with that 5 in the tenths. Rounded to the nearest tenth, my answer is going to be 3.5. Last one, number 9. So 23.5% of 128. We're going to move that decimal 2 places to the left. 0.235. My goodness. Times 128. Okay, let's calculate. So your decimal that you should see here is 30.08. Think about the 8 in the hundredths. What's that going to do to that 0 in the tenths? So if I round, final answer, 30.1. So 30.1 is 23.5% of 128. So we're going to stop there. And I'm hoping that clarified a little bit for you and helped you out. I'm going to stop here, and you're going to go to the next part of the agenda. And I'm going to show a video there as well. You're going to do some practice in thatquiz.org on percent of a number. So you can close your book, and I'll meet you back here looking at thatquiz.org.